love analyzing every tiny detail in the movies I watch, and today I'm going through and ranking every scene in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade from worst to best. I already did this for Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Temple of Doom on this channel, and my overambitiousness didn't kill me with those videos, so now it's time to round out the original trilogy. Let's get started with last place. At number 34, we have Indy and Elsa breaking into the Austrian castle. This scene is unnecessary, it's pointless humor that's not that funny, it's Harrison Ford doing, I think, a Scottish accent.
Do not take that tone with me, my good man.
But this doesn't feel like something Indy would do. He just goes in and then ends up punching the butler out. Like, what is this scene here for? Next up is Donovan and the Nazis in the Republic of Hatay. And the movie does a poor job explaining why they are here. It is, I guess, where they need to show up to get to the Canyon of the Crescent Moon. It's related to Alexandretta and all that stuff. But again, Last Crusade doesn't explain it at all, and it just sort of feels thrown in here so that no one questions how they got a tank or all of these sacrificial lambs for the 3 tests later on. At number 32, we have Indy and Sala and Indy's dad meeting up. This is an extremely short scene. There's no ceremony to Indy reuniting with this dear friend of his. It's just there so that it makes sense that Sala's with them when they do get to the big tank action scene. It's just another one of those transition scenes, but it doesn't feel very natural. At number 31, we have the action scene that introduces Indiana Jones as an adult in this movie. It's Indy on the Coronado. And this scene is only here because the entire prologue was young Indiana Jones and the movie needed a way to transition into middle-aged Indiana Jones. So we get this set piece. And it's extremely unmemorable. Yeah, I guess it's got some spectacle. There's a big explosion, but there's just no real drama here. It's very quick. Indy escapes through dumb luck. Also, it always bothers me that the guy who gave Indy the hat and inspired the leather jacket is nowhere to be found in this scene. It just seems convenient that we don't have to deal with the unpleasant notion of Indy sort of killing his mentor. At number 30, we've got Indy at the Nazi book burning. And the Hitler gag is great. But the rest of the scene, again, just too convenient. Like, that Indy's able to find Elsa amongst a sea of Nazis so easily. The scene just feels like a side plot that was tossed in there really quick so they could get the diary back, but there's no actual stakes here. And then I just hate how they start humanizing Elsa here, where she's really mopey about the book burning. They just turned her into a villain, like in her last scene, and now Spielberg and everyone are trying really hard to make us sympathize with her, like in her very next scene. I just don't like her character arc. At number 29, we have the very first scene in the movie. It's all the landscape shots of, I guess, 1912 Utah. And you'll see that the bottom scenes in these rankings are all different variations of like useless, except for this scene. This scene is, I think, actually very atmospheric. It's a good introduction, and it gives you that feeling that we're returning to sort of the structure of Raiders of the Lost Ark. But it's lower on this list solely because nothing really happens. It's merely there as the opening credits, but it always gets me into the mood for the movie. It just doesn't stand up well when compared to the more substantial scenes. At number 28, we're back to useless scenes. It's the massacre of the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword. And these guys were just in the movie to set up like that Venice action scene and then to be a plot device so that Indy can find where his father is. So coming back to them, it just seems to be like tying up a story arc that really wasn't important. And again, that stupid character arc where Elsa is like so sad because the guy is dying. Like, stop humanizing Elsa, stupid movie. Not a stupid movie, I love this movie. But still, just, I don't really care for this scene. At number 27, we have the characters finding the Canyon of the Crescent Moon. Like, this one carries a lot of dramatic weight because the movie's been building towards finding the Grail, and this is where the Grail is. But it's lower in this list because I feel like the quest for finding the Canyon of the Crescent Moon was set up as like this mystery with all these clues and like just they're gonna have to decipher all this to figure this out. But then actually spotting that canyon and finding it, I feel like that part's a little bit underwhelming. At number 26, we've got Indy and Brody meeting Elsa. And I like Elsa's introduction because she's clearly a very different type of character than Marion or Willie. She's not a bad guy yet, but still, effective introduction. And this is the most ladies' man-ish that Harrison Ford plays Indiana Jones as in the entire series. Though I've never really understood what they're actually saying when they're flirting. Like, they're so rapid fire. Maybe I'm just a really bad flirter, but I don't understand this.
Do you permit me?
I usually don't.
I usually don't either.
In that case, I permit you.
It would make me very happy.
But I'm already sad. By tomorrow, it will have faded.
At number 25, we have the search of Indy's father's house. And this scene has a lot of subtle character moments, like just Brody talking about Indy and his father's strained relationship, Indy asking Brody if he believes in the power of the Grail, and seeing Indy's dad's house ransacked that gives Indy the proper motivation for this quest, so a good scene. At number 24, we have Indy and Brody flying to Venice, and this is the map scene, or this is the primary map scene in this movie, and I'm gonna have to give my brother some credit. He criticized my Raiders of the Lost Ark scene rankings video, saying the map scenes should not have been the lowest because those are iconic. And I tinkered with my equation for how I determine these scene rankings because I added whether or not a scene is iconic into my rubric. And that's why the scene manages to be up here. Thanks, brother. Also, I just realized this time watching it that they fly through the Azores, and my wife just took me to the Azores for a milestone birthday, so thanks, wife. At number 23, we have Marcus Brody in Iskenderun. It is one of the funniest scenes in the entire series, like the setup from the previous scene.
Friends in every town and village from here to the Sudan. He speaks a dozen languages. He'll blend in, disappear. You'll never see him again. With any luck, he's got the Grail already.
Does anyone here speak English?
And then I have fond memories of back in college, my best friend and I watching the scene where Sala just keeps telling Brody, run, and Brody just keeps going, yes.
Papers, please.
Papers? Of course. Run.
Yes.
Just finished reading it myself. Run.
Yes.
Like, we watched that like hundreds of times in like one night, just that one scene. I have fond memories of that, so thanks, friend. I don't like that Brody is just made into a cartoon goofball in this movie after how he was portrayed in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I hate how Sala hides him in this like market stall, which the Nazis just knew that Sala was gonna do, so they hid a Nazi truck there that they could drive Brody away. Like, what the hell am I watching here? At number 22, we have the plane chase scene, and I'm not the biggest fan of the action scenes in The Last Crusade, and this is a big reason why. The special effects when they're having the dogfight, they just don't work. It's like watching a CGI heavy movie nowadays. So I'm always taken out of the scene like right away. When they're on the ground in the car, that's better when the planes are actually chasing them. Still some shoddy special effects. There are some great Sean Connery moments though, man.
Dad, are we hit? More or less. Sean, I'm sorry. They got us.
At number 21, we have the no ticket scene. And this is just a really good example of why Indiana Jones as a series works. Like, this scene is goofy as hell, but it's just got such a fun punchline, literally, that I can't help but smile.
No ticket.
At number 20, we have Indy teaching his class, and this is like kind of a repeat of the Raiders scene, but with some fun twists, like when Indy has to go through like a sea of his students. Wow, I used the word sea when I was describing a sea of Nazis. I need to find a different word. He goes through a throng of his students. Yeah, that sounded way better. Thanks, vocabulary. At number 19, we have Indy and Elsa's love scene, and in 2024, it's harder to stomach just how Indy kind of forces himself on Elsa.
I'm gonna continue to do things the way I think they should be done.
I mean, the way the movie plays it, they're both into it, but it doesn't really come naturally that they are hooking up here. Like, in his mind, their rooms were just ransacked, and his dad has been kidnapped still, and he was almost killed. Maybe the excitement made him really horny. I don't know. But there's some really good elements. I mean, this is where he and Brody sort of discover that Alexandretta and Iskenderun are the key to finding the Canyon of the Crescent Moon. And there's a really subtle Spielberg oneer, where the camera just follows Indy through his room and into Elsa's room and into the bathroom, and it's all like one shot. I think that's really well done. At number 18, we have most of the prologue with River Phoenix. It's everything from when he's watching them unearth the Cross of Coronado till when he escapes off the train. And this is a really fun scene. River Phoenix does some really good Harrison Ford impersonations, and it is memorable. I mean, seeing how Indy got all of his trademarks. I personally don't really care about young Indiana Jones, so as good as this scene is, I'm never that compelled while watching it. So the scene probably is higher for most people, but it's not that high for me. At number 17, we've got the X marks the spot scene. And this is another one of those really fun Indiana Jones scenes that mixes goofy humor with adventure. Like, there's something really epic about Indy just going up the stairs and finding that X. Even if it is a bit preposterous that no one else was able to decipher these pretty rudimentary clues. I mean, oh, Roman numerals. We just gotta match 3 Roman numerals? How hard is it to know that there's an X on the floor? But still, really fun scene. And watching Indy be as giddy as a schoolboy is great. At number 16, we have young Indy losing the cross. And this scene is like 5 times shorter than the train scene, but I think it packs more of an emotional punch because we actually get to meet Indy's dad for the first time. And the relationship sort of sets up their emotional arc for the rest of the movie. And I do think the moment where the guy gives him the hat and it transitions to Harrison Ford, that is one of those iconic moments in this movie that I've always loved. At number 15, we have the exposition scene where Donovan explains the Grail lore and the quest to Indy. And I think this scene gets a bit wordy, but I think it does a job in getting the speed up to... Wow, where's my speaking ability? The audience up to speed. Should I re-record this? Probably not, because then it's probably going to get a bit more wordy, just like this exposition scene, but it does a pretty good job. At number 14, we have Indy and Elsa searching through the catacombs and finding the Knight's Shield. So this is a strong adventure scene. It's got a lot of elements like the creepy crawlies in the form of the rats here, little references to the Ark of the Covenant, and like them having to escape danger at the end of the scene. And Indy actually finding the shield is pretty, I guess, it's powerful to an extent. I do think this entire section of the movie is kind of hollow. Like, it just feels like it's waiting for a jolt of energy, which it will get soon in the form of Sean Connery. But this being in the opening act of the movie, it's a little bit lower in the rankings than it probably would have been if it was later and it included Indy's dad. At number 13, we have the final shots of the movie. It's Indy, his dad, Sala, and Brody riding off into the sunset. And I mentioned Indy's dad in the last ranking, and it's interesting because through this point, only 3 scenes had included Sean Connery. The rest of the scenes in this movie that I've yet to rank, every one of them has him in it, so that tells you how much I love this character. As for this scene, a brilliant cap-off to the trilogy, a fantastic final image. It would have been the perfect ending to the series. At number 12, we have the motorcycle chase, and I actually think this is a really great action scene that just could have been a little bit longer. Like, it's shorter than most action scenes in the Indiana Jones series. Part of that is because this is kind of like the tail end of the whole escape from the castle. But what we've got is really fun, like the gag with the boat. And I just love Indy's dad's reactions to every one of Indy's exploits. It's such a fun scene. At number 11, we have Indy and his father at the crossroads. And this is the first of a couple of emotional father-son conversations. And this one, we start to get a feel for their strained family dynamic and what drove them apart. We also have some humor in the form of Indy chastising his father for not remembering the contents of the diary. And we get a pretty stirring monologue from Sean Connery about what happens if the Nazis get the Grail.
The quest for the Grail is not archaeology. It's a race against evil.
At number 10, we have Indy finding the Grail. And this is a very satisfying kind of conclusion to the quest. Conversation with the Knight is really interesting. And the drama of finding the right Grail, there is a lot of tension there. And I do like Elsa just absolutely destroying Donovan by choosing the wrong Grail. I don't buy Donovan just falling for this ruse so easily. It's like, there's so many golden cups here, and Elsa picks like one of them, and he's just like, wow, that's gotta be it. Let me drink from it without questioning anything. I just don't buy that. At number 9, we have the scene where Indy's dad is shot. And this includes when the guy is decapitated by the trap. So this scene sort of injects the rest of the climax with some serious stakes. So that's why this one works so well. And Harrison Ford's acting when his father has been shot, I think it's some of his finest acting in the series. I just don't like Elsa, again, being made more sympathetic. And the reason I don't like it is because of my number 8 scene. It's the scene where Indy and his father have been captured. Because this is the only scene where Elsa's like full-on bad guy, and I think she's really effective in this scene. I don't like Donovan's betrayal, because Donovan was only in like one scene before this, so it doesn't actually have any dramatic heft to it. Plus, his betrayal is literally like 45 seconds after Elsa's betrayal, so it just doesn't land. But this scene is up at number 8 because of one of the greatest ad-libbed lines ever.
How did you know she was a Nazi? She talks in her sleep.
At number 7, we have the Venice boat chase, and as a pure action scene, it's probably my favorite in the movie. I have a couple higher on this list, but that's because those are funnier or have more character depth to them. This one, though, has so many great little set pieces that are all like building together to conclude with that epic confrontation in front of the ship propeller. I just don't like how the scene resolves itself, though, because the Brotherhood or the Cruciform Sword or whatever, they're just plot devices so Indy can find his dad. Like, this guy's fanaticism, he can just turn it on and off like a light switch. At number 6, we have the Grail Temple collapsing. This movie at its most basic is about a father and son and their relationship, and this scene is the emotional climax for that relationship. The Elsa dying sequence, I'm not a huge fan of Elsa. Like, I just don't like how they just wavered on her character, and I don't buy Indy diving so desperately to save her. But I do like that she does die, which is a big change in the fate of like an Indiana Jones heroine. And it sets up the brilliant final sequence where Henry Jones Sr. saves Henry Jones Jr.
Indiana. Let it go.
At number 5, we have the tank chase. This is the Last Crusade's answer to the truck scene in Raiders or the minecart chase in Temple of Doom. And while I don't think it's as memorable as those two, it is fantastic. Like, there's so much going on with Indy's dad and Brody being inside of the tank and having to deal with the Nazis in there, and Indy being on horseback, having to jump on the tank, having to fight Vogel, and then culminating with them barreling off of the cliff and the emotional moment where Henry Sr. Thinks he's lost his son. Just a really great cap off to the scene.
I thought I'd lost you, boy.
At number 4, we have Indy rescuing his father in the castle, and this is the scene that I am always waiting for when I'm watching this movie, because it's when the movie feels like it elevates like 7 different levels. This character's entrance into the movie is like a jolt of electricity into The Last Crusade. Just seeing Harrison Ford and Sean Connery interacting, there's like warmth, there's bitterness, there's all that fun stuff. And then Elsa betraying Indy at the end of the scene. As much as I dislike how they couldn't figure out how to just make Elsa a bad guy in this movie and kept trying to make her good later, I still think it's a shocking betrayal that sort of really helps differentiate this movie from its predecessors. At number 3, we have the conversation aboard the blimp between Indy and his father. And this is where The Last Crusade is really different from the other Indy movies, because it's not spectacle that I'm looking for in this movie. It's not huge action set pieces or just grand adventure moments. It's just these quieter moments between Indy and his father. There's so much to unpack in this scene. We learn so much about Indiana Jones. We learn a lot about his father and his relationship with him.
Do I detect a rebuke? A regret?
This scene is like a pitch perfect example of why I think Spielberg and Lucas made a great decision to really focus in on this relationship in The Last Crusade. At number 2, we have Indy and his dad escaping from the castle. This is where the chair catches on fire.
The floor's on fire.
See? And the chair.
There's just so many like really great fun and funny little interactions. Like most action scenes in this series, you're just dying to see what like crazy thing is going to happen next. This scene, though, makes me just like be like, what are they going to say to each other? What joke's going to come? What funny, quirky little interactions there are going to be? That's what really makes the scene so strong. It mixes really strong character-based humor with over-the-top action, and it's like a perfection of the Indiana Jones formula. And at number 1, we have a scene that's beyond perfect. It's the 3 tests. Wow, what a sequence, though. Just capturing that sense of adventure that the series has been known for. Indiana Jones is at his most archaeological, where he's having to actually like decipher these clues in real time. Just a masterful direction, like intersplicing Harrison Ford and Sean Connery as they're both basically solving these riddles, solidifying the bond that's been developing between this father and son duo all movie long. And then just the emotions in this sequence. I don't think any moment in this series has the emotional weight of this scene. Again, this is like a perfection of the Indiana Jones formula. And so those are my rankings for the scenes in The Last Crusade from worst to best. Let me know in the comments what you agree with and what you disagree with. And also let me know if you want to see me do some of these scene ranking videos for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny. I might do them anyway, so your comments may end up being irrelevant. But please like and subscribe to my channel, and yeah, also comment. It does help the channel. And thanks for watching, guys.